When my headlights topped that embankment, there was a wolf creature down at the bottom of it. This thing was huge. It looked just like that movie, The Werewolf in London.
As proprietor of Willow Suckland, I converse with so many interesting and unique people, often each day, and from time to time, unique stories emerge. With the theme of my channel being Spirit of Adventure and Discovery, I like to probe a bit into these stories and then bring them to you to see what you think. I recently interviewed a trucker from Alabama who claimed to have seen a giant werewolf or dogman. At one time, I did not believe in Bigfoot, but have since interviewed 39 people who claim to have seen him with their own eyes, some of whom are very credible people, one of whom is from Alabama. And so I'd bet money Bigfoot is real. So I was not quick to dismiss her story as fantasy, because throughout history there have been reports and lore concerning the werewolf. In 1651, Hans of Estonia confessed to hunting as a werewolf and to transforming himself into such, and at the young age of only 18, received the death penalty. Then there was the wealthy Bedburg, Germany farmer Peter Stump, who confessed to making a pact with Satan at age 12 and to being transformed into a werewolf, and as such, killing 14 children and 2 pregnant women, and to the cannibalization of such. Of course, I have no way of knowing if either of those 2 stories are true or if this one is, but I leave it to you to be the judge. Please let me know what you think of the story, because to be honest, I have no idea what I think of it. In reflecting on the story and on the neighbors' claims of hearing but not seeing wolves in the area, and in studying history, I think it's more likely that she saw a werewolf, not a dogman. This is Carol Ann Tucker from Trucker Patriot YouTube channel, and she's going to tell us about when she saw a dogman.
Hey y'all, YouTube land. I have some property in Shelby County, Alabama. And I went up to my property about 3 years ago, and I was going to put the corner posts on my property so I could paint the tops up in bright pink, so when I sit in my treehouse hunting, I know where the corners of my property's at. I drove up, takes about 3.5 so hours, to get to my property from where I live on the Gulf Coast, and I drove up there. I got there early morning, started, working my property. I worked the 4 corners of the property. I dug the holes. I left my posts on the corners. I went and dropped cement bags. I dropped water containers. Went back around. I worked all day. I was on to my last one, and as I went, it started getting dark. And I'm trudging down the road, and this guy that has the property right next to me has got this 1,500-acre hunting camp right behind my property. And so he gave me a key to get in his road so that I could get in there to do what I got to do until I make me a driveway road. And so halfway down his road, I'm thinking, man, I'm pulling a dolly with the big wheels on it. I was pulling it through the wooded. It was winter time and about 27 degrees, and I'm fully suited up in an insulated suit with a 45 gun holster on and all my tool belt and everything hanging on. I need to do my work, so I get halfway down and I'm thinking, man, if I go all the way to the road and then go back over and then come back 700 feet, it's going to be totally dark, and I'm, going to be trudging in the woods in the dark. Well, I thought, if I cut through here, it was a big stand of 20 to 25-year-old pines, and it was real thick. You couldn't see into it and all, and I'm coming down the road and I'm thinking, man, if I could just cut through here, it just seems like I ought to come right out at my post and I'll be done and I can get out of here by dark. Well, I didn't see no way in, and that thing was so thick, and I'm trudging along, and all of a sudden I see this little deer trail kind of going off in there, and I'm going, man, okay. And I go back and I go down that deer trail. When I walk into this area, it's real dark in there, so I reach in my pocket and I pull out my headlamp and put it on. I'm looking around. It is real wide open in this area. After I walked down a few trees, it just opened up, but it was dark as all get out. all the little pine trees in there, 20, 25-year-old pines about that big around, they had limbs on, but something had torn all the limbs off of it and made it real wide open all down in there. So I get to looking around as I'm, heading my direction I'm going, pulling all my junk. And I see 2 big old pine straw mounds over to my left. And I'm looking at, over there. And these pine straw mounds are about, I don't know, about that tall, big, wide mouth. And it's all pine straw, just been mounded up there. And I could see one of them, and then there was one offset, and the one offset behind the first one had like an opening, a dark opening that I could see in it.
Are they pine strouds?
They were pine straw mound, big pine straw mounds, and then
mounds.
around the bottom of the pine straw mounds looked like where all the branches had been torn off all the trees. They were placed around there, and I thought, well, maybe this is a homeless person. And then I heard something behind me come through the thicket where I had come through, because I made a lot of noise when I come through there, and so did this thing, whatever it was, or whoever it was. I was thinking it was a homeless person at that point, okay? I hollered, because I've clearly heard him walk through there. I mean, bipedal walking, And I said, hey, and nobody said anything. And I heard it come towards me again, whatever, walking. And I said, hey, again, and nothing. They didn't say nothing. Kind of got feeling a little bit nervous at that point, And I'm making my way through, and it was making me real nervous. So I got my 45 out. I loaded it, and I had it in my hand. And it was 27 degrees, and it was getting dark. And when I would stop, it would stop. And I'd go, and then it would go. And I even one time acted like I was going to go, and held my foot up, and then it stepped down. So I knew to do something, and it was freaking me out. I was really getting freaked. And so I started up the hill, and I'm thinking, man, if that's somebody gonna get me anyway coming up this hill. And so I was really nervous getting up that hill. But when I got to the top of the hill, I could hear whatever it was right at the bottom of the hill. So then I go around. I had parked my car to the point where, the car was between me and whatever it was in the woods. And I get in the car, chunk all my stuff in there, go around, get in the car, start it up, and I'm sitting there in the car, turn the heater on because I'm cold as all get out. We're not used to cold in the South. I pull the car forward thinking, well, maybe I can see what it is, okay? So I go kind of pull the car forward and down the embankment a little bit, and when my headlights, I flipped my brights, and when my headlights topped that embankment, there was a wolf creature down at the bottom of it. This thing was huge. It looked just like that movie, The Werewolf in London. And this thing had, its ears was that tall, probably that, sticking straight up on its head with tufts of hair off the top of it. And its eyes was golden colored. And when it was down on all fours down there, sniffing the ground where I had been messing around down at the bottom of the hill before I started my way up the hill, it was just sniffing like a dog would, And then it realized that it was in the headlights, and it kind of got the deer in the headlights looking. It jumped up on all fours and 2 legs around, straight over behind a hickory tree. It was probably about that big around, maybe, I don't know, about that big around. And it was hiding behind the hickory tree, but its hand, dude, its hand was around the side of the tree. It had, sorry, am I getting nervous just talking about it?
Yeah.
It had nails on the top of its, coming off its fingers about that long. And its fingers was, I don't know about that long, about 7 or 8 inches long its fingers was.
Big hairy fingers?
Oh, yeah. It kind of looked like a raccoon hand, but had big old long, daggers on the end of it. And this thing, it looked just like straight out of a Werewolf in London movie.
Like how tall was it?
7 to 8 feet tall, probably.
Wow.
I mean, it was on all fours when I first saw it sniffing the ground, but when it realized that I had it, in the headlights, it jumped up on 2 feet and jumped behind that hickory tree, was hiding. It just had its hand, around the tree, but the rest of it I really couldn't see. And it was a blondish, brownish color, with grayish and some whitish, and it was real thick mane, because it was cold. It had a big head, and it had thick mane that were, I really didn't see a neck, but I mean, It didn't look like a German Shepherd. I've heard people say.
Did it
looked
have a snout like a wolf?
I did, yeah. It had a snout on it.
Coming right
and
off
I never
of its
really
face.
saw any teeth. I never saw any teeth or anything like that. It didn't. It just looked to me like it was curious because it was the way it was sniffing the ground. I mean, I've raised dogs, you know.
Yeah.
I know how dogs are, and I've got 2 service dogs now, you know, with me.
So it was basically either on your property or really close to your property. So do you just not go out there anymore?
I think I walked through its domain when I walked through that pine tree lot right next to my property to get to that.
Has it kind of scared you from going out to your property?
Dude, I hadn't been back in 3 years. I hadn't been back up there in 3 years. Of course, I've been running, and I just retired, and I'm going to try to get up there and build me a road in. And
Yeah, but that was a freaky experience.
But I'm going to tell you what, it's just I've really not been comfortable thinking about going back up there.
Yeah, I can see why.
I did call my neighbor, who lives next door to me, and his son lives on his 10 acres he got next to me. And I asked him, I said, "You ever hear any wolves? There's any wolves up there, man?" And he said, "We hear them. I've never seen any." And he said, "My son that lives up there's got dogs, and they never messed with, his dogs or anything so far." And I told him, I just wondered because
Well, thanks, Carol Ann, for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you, and y'all go check out my channel. I've seen Dog Man, and I think I've been marked by my frequency because they follow me, seeing me where I go.
Yep,
But,
Trucker Patriot.
It's Trucker Patriot. I just retired. I'm retired truck driver for 42 years.